You know the scene in The Matrix with the Spoon Boy outside of the Oracle's apartment? This scene is pivotal to Neo's journey of becoming the One, and his own journey of self-discovery and belief. In this video, we'll discuss the philosophical significance and the lessons we can apply from the wisdom, "There is no spoon." We'll explore how this concept applies to real life and how understanding it can reshape your perspective. By the end of this video, you'll walk away with a fresh view on what's truly possible. Those unfamiliar with the scene, the lines go as follow. Do not try to bend the spoon. That's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth. There is no spoon. Then when you see it is not the spoon that bends, it is only yourself. In The Matrix, the character Neo realizes that the spoon isn't actually bending. It's his perception of the spoon that changes. The idea here is that in reality, or at least in part, it is shaped by our minds. When we shift our mindset, we can shift the world. In practical terms, we can think about our beliefs and mental limits as personal spoons. These things that we're trying to overcome and change our perception of. Once we recognize these beliefs aren't as absolute as we think, the door to change opens. Before we dive deeper, I would like to touch on a few philosophical foundations that tie into the concept of there is no spoon. Don't worry, I'll try to keep it straightforward. Buddhism often speaks on the nature of the world as we perceive it. It reminds us that clinging to our fixed beliefs can trap us in suffering. As we let go of these fixed beliefs, we become free. Stoicism similarly centers on focusing on what we can control, our thoughts, reactions, and judgments, rather than external events. The real shift happens when we realize that it is our perception that is under our control, not the world around us. Existentialism essentially shows us that life doesn't come in a pre-packaged box with inherent meaning. Instead, we assign meaning to certain things. This ties back to there is no spoon because the world isn't fixed on how it must be. We have the freedom to redefine our path. Plato's allegory of the cave briefly suggests that what we see might just be shadows of a deeper, more real reality. Beliefs that aren't supported outside of our minds are often limits that we've put on ourselves. Recognizing these limitations is the first step to true understanding and growth. So how do we use there is no spoon in our day-to-day life? Let's first look at how Neo applies this wisdom. Before embracing he is the one and starts doing impossible things, he reminds himself that there is no spoon, that the limits he faces is mostly in his mind and a mental construct. He looks inwards to see what the limits are and what is just in his mind. Although we probably won't be able to dodge bullets and bend in impossible ways, we can break free of our limiting beliefs and do things we thought were impossible. So here are the practical takeaways. We'll start by identifying specific areas where we might be limiting ourselves. This could be our career goals, relationships, personal development, giving up when things get hard. These are all limiting beliefs or spoons that we need to identify. When we question the assumption, ask if this is a belief or if this is fact. Is this a limit that I put on myself, or is this fundamentally true? We reframe it. Instead of saying, I could never do this, consider I'm not able to do this yet. The small shift in our language hints that you can grow and change your approach. Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck coined the term growth mindset to describe students' beliefs that their intelligence and their ability can grow with effort. Neo questions his limits, and then he takes action. When we take action, we prove to ourselves that our old viewpoints might not be correct. This doesn't mean that we'll be able to bend reality like Neo overnight, but we can make progress into what seemed impossible. It's critical to understand that our brains build shortcuts based off of routines, habits, and social conditioning. These shortcuts help us function in our day-to-day life, but also can create rigid, rough thinking. When we begin to question the so-called facts of our lives, we nudge our mind into new possibilities. rebuilding our mindset and redefining our limits. Just like in The Matrix, we're not really bending the physical spoon. We're not changing the world around us, but we are warping our mental cages of what we believe to be possible. With our mental cage bent, we can rediscover new tactics to tackle challenges and obstacles in our path. At the end of the day, realizing that the spoon is impossible to bend ourselves reminds us that our limits are often in our minds. By challenging our mental limits, we can find fresh opportunities in life, whether that's changing our career path, pursuing a new skill, or strengthening our relationships. We can break free of our limits. If you found this discussion or my perspective helpful, please show some love by liking the video. Comment one spoon that you're ready to bend in your own life. If you enjoyed this kind of philosophical content and practical takeaways, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and remember that reality is shaped by our perspective.